Good morning, welcome back to my channel. And today I'm going to talk about how the parents that scapegoated you also try to sabotage your life to ensure that you remain in that scapegoated position, or that you don't surpass either the parents that are scapegoating you or the golden child that they are propping up. So for me, this looked like my father never financially supported me at all. Even though he was ordered to pay child support through the divorce between my mother, and himself, he didn't pay a dime of it. And blamed my mother for why he wasn't paying it. He basically said that your mom doesn't want me to pay the child support because she wants to collect welfare, which it's insane, but this was a narrative that he continually pumped in my head about my mother and why he wasn't supporting me financially. Since his child support was court ordered, he eventually would have had to have paid the child support. But his wife, who he's still married to today, she worked for the government of Canada, for the federal government, and she worked for a part of the government at that time that would issue the equivalent to a social security number. In Canada, it's called a social insurance number, which is how they track your employment. And so what she did back then, I mean, you can't do it now, but back then she created a social insurance number for my father the name was slightly different than his real name, so that he could work and not have to worry about being garnished for the child support that he owed my mom. And so he worked under that social insurance number for, at least I know he used that number while he was being a welder in Alberta. I think it was in the 80s. And back then, the amount of money that he was making, because it's coincident, so weird. I saw his pay stubs. He sent them to me by accident, I think. Years later, I was in my 30s maybe, when he sent me these pay stubs by accident. He was supposed to be sending me some other documents, but those pay stubs were in there, and I just remember making a note of the amount of money he was making. At that time, it was a lot of money, and he did not see it fit to provide any support for me at all, which just goes to me, or why I think that it was intentional to sabotage me and make sure that I was not supported. So in all of this, while he wasn't supporting me, he was taking care of a child that was not biologically his child. And so granted, I didn't live in the house with them, so I understand that when you don't live in the household, you're not going to benefit the same way that the children who live in the household benefit. So I understand that part. But my situation, I believe, was definitely intentional. His wife did not want him to support me, and he was fine with not supporting me, because I feel like he felt if he gave any support financially, it would help my mother, and he did not want to see my mother do well at all. On the flip side, my stepsister, the stepmonster's daughter, whose father was married and could not claim her, she was provided every single thing you can imagine. Like everything you can give someone to succeed in life was provided to her. I know my father taught her how to drive. They bought her first car at 16. I'm trying to think about everything else. So I think at 17, she got a job with the federal government through her mother. And she's been working there ever since, probably to this day, and we are in our 50s. So that is a financial security that it's irreplaceable. I mean, that's how she has been able to sustain herself for all these years, is because she's had that support and the support financially, and the security is the word I was looking for, from her parents. That I think we all should have that. And yeah, if my father was going to do anything for me, he would always preface it by telling me not to say anything, to anybody about him actually doing anything for me. And all of these things, I internalized and accepted this as though I deserved to be treated this way by my own father. When I think about it at times, I sometimes get angry at myself for putting up with that for as long as I did, but I really didn't know better. So I give myself some grace. A question I'd ask myself is, why did I keep going over there? Why didn't I say, no, I don't want to go there anymore. I'm being, uh, mistreated and all these other things. And then I thought about why I would choose to do there. But again, I feel like when you go through something often, you start to normalize that behavior if you don't have anything else to compare it to. So that's kind of all that I knew. And my mom didn't have a family, so it was just me and my mom. She didn't have brothers and sisters and a family like that, like, cousins, and I could go and we could visit and have dinner and Christmas dinners and all those things that you do, family things. I didn't have that with her, but my dad had a very large family. He has like seven or eight brothers and sisters, and I had cousins, and so it was always a big to do for Christmas and holidays, and that's kind of why I went there. So even though it wasn't always pleasant, nothing's all negative. There are positive things that happen that you hold on to, and so I enjoyed hanging out with some of my cousins, and the tradition, the family traditions. We're a Guyanese family, so there are things that were very traditional that we would do at Christmas and different holidays, and so I enjoyed those kind of traditional things, and I'm still happy I had those experiences, because those are things that I do today, and pass those cultural traditions down to my daughter. So why did my father scapegoat his biological child and prop up a child that was not biologically his as a golden child? And the reasons I believe are, number one, my mother. He did not want my mother to succeed in life through me, I guess is what he looked at. He attached me to her. I think not helping and scapegoating me kept me in my place, therefore kept my mother in her place. And then because I believe he was scapegoated in his family, it took the attention off of him and placed it on somebody else so that he could, you know, um, shine himself in a different light. Because the amount of time and effort that he spent degrading me, talking negative about me to anybody who would listen, there had to be a motivation behind it. And that's what I think it was. One thing that he would always tell me is that I'm lucky to know him, because a lot of men in the same situation would have been gone and I wouldn't know who they were. And I remember back then, I was young, I was a kid, like 6, 7, 8. Those are the ages that he would start indoctrinating these things in me. And I remember back then, I maybe believed that in some form. But now that I'm older, wiser, I feel actually I would have benefited from not knowing him, um, because the quality of the relationship was very damaging. Many, many things happened to me while I was in his care and custody, and it happened because nobody cared about me. And so when I think about him saying those things to me, that I was lucky, I actually was not lucky. And I tell women and sometimes kids who say, oh, I never knew my dad and my father wasn't around. Sometimes that's a blessing in disguise, I think. I think that if someone didn't care enough about you to be present in your life, you're probably lucky that they weren't there, because they might have been there causing damage, irreparable damage to your life. And I'll leave it there for today. Thank you for listening, and I'll be back with some more videos. Have a great day.